A question I get a lot is what kind of content should I make for my social media platforms? And the answer to that is simple. You should think of your audience as your friends and create content that you think your friends will enjoy. And not necessarily your friends as in friends that you have on Facebook currently, but your friends as in get to know your audience. Find out what kind of content they want to see. Do they like videos best? Do they want to know your advice on a topic? Are they there more for entertainment, or are they there more for education? Or maybe they like a mix of both. You just have to figure out what your audience likes and serve them that. And that is easy to do when you are thinking of your audience as a friend rather than as a customer. You want your content that you're posting to be authentic, to show the raw, real side of your business. So maybe one way that you do that is by taking your customers and your audience behind the scenes. Maybe you take them, for a day in the life at your office and show them what goes into creating the product or service that you are selling them. That is almost like an ad in and of itself, but when your audience is watching that, they're not going to feel like they're being advertised to. They're going to feel like they're your friend, getting a behind-the-scenes tour of your business. Like, that is really entertaining content that is easy to make for you because you're operating your business every single day anyway. All you need to do is get a camera, get someone to follow you around, and show them what you do behind the scenes. Not only is this going to act as entertainment and an advertisement for your product or service, but it's really going to help build the trust and reliability that you need to build with your customer before they buy. Because when they see that behind the scenes, when they see all of the efforts that are going in to create that finished product or service, it's going to convince them that maybe that's not something they can do on their own. Maybe they need your help in order to do that. So I think that's just one great example of something that you could do to create some content that's going to add value to your audience, that's going to be real, that's going to be authentic, and that's going to almost be you as a business being friends with your audience, which is exactly what you should be aiming to do. Now, that's just one example. There's plenty of other things you can be doing, and I don't want to say that that's necessarily going to work with your audience. It definitely depends on what your audience is looking for and what kind of products and services you make, if that's able to be something you can create. But that's just one example. Like, I encourage you to really get to know your audience, and get to know them not in just the fact of like what kind of posts are they liking, what kind of stuff are they commenting on your brand, but following your audience, finding out what kind of posts they're liking not of your brand. What other kind of content are they engaging with? Maybe they follow your brand because they really already like your products and services, but then they're not really following you for the content. So if that's the case, what kind of content can you make that you can keep someone's interest who is just following you because they already really like your brand or products or services? You should, follow them, see what kind of content they're sharing as if they were one of your friends. In fact, while you're doing that, that is another way to build authenticity and connections with your audience. If you're already following them, trying to find out what kind of content you can create that would interest them, then while you're there, comment on their post, like their post, message them if you really like something that they shared. You want to create content that's not promotional content, not advertising your products and services, but just connecting with your audience. That is the best way that you can build the foundation of trust needed to eventually use your social platforms to sell your products and to sell your services. But you're not going to get those products and services sold if you are just focusing on promoting those products and services. What you want to do is focus on authentic relationships and focus on the friendships that you can build with your audience. Some reasons that is going to help you grow your business is that it's going to catch their attention. If you're just posting an advertisement, we see thousands of advertisements every single day. Our minds are trained to just see an ad and ignore it. That's what people are doing when they're scrolling on social media. If they see a deal that's like 2 for $10.99 or something like that, they're just going to keep scrolling past that, even if it's an advertisement that you paid to show them. But imagine if maybe your paid advertisement is something that looks like something one of their friends posted. They're actually going to stop. They're actually going to give your brand attention. The number one mistake that I see businesses make with their social media content is completely missing the authentic, real connections with their audience. So the kind of content that they create is often perfectly curated content, which is great. Like if you look at an Instagram feed and it's perfectly curated, you know, it's always really nice to look at. It keeps you on the page, and there is a place and a time for perfectly curated content. But at the same time, if you are going to be curating content and making it perfect, you need to have a place for raw and real content. And even that perfectly curated content needs to be driven from the ideas that you gathered when researching your audience and figuring out what kind of content they want to see. You know, one thing that I see a lot on Instagram, especially with those perfectly curated feeds, is quote posts, you know, images of models, or, you know, obviously depends on what your business is. But I see a lot of, you know, repetition and patterns with what businesses are sharing, which is great. But the question I always ask myself is this the best content that your audience would be wanting to engage with right now? I mean, it looks great for sure, but it's not always about looks, it's not always about presentation, it's about results. Is this content, not only is it getting them to engage, but is it getting them to build trust and get to the point where they can actually buy your products or services? Because I'm assuming that if you have a social presence, your end goal is to grow your brand awareness, grow your following, and eventually get those people to purchase your products. So I see a lot of brands who do have a really large following, and when they share content that is like those perfectly curated quotes and perfectly curated images, they do get a lot of engagement, but then the second they post something about their brand, the second they post something about their product or service, instantly that engagement plummets. And that's not what you want to do. You want to have your product and your service integrated in that kind of engaging content that your audience wants to like and wants to comment on and wants to share. Whether that's educational content or entertainment content, you want to be able to tie your product and service and your brand in a way that is authentic, that your audience wants to engage with. So rather than I think one thing that I see a lot is where people will kind of separate those things. They'll separate their business, their products and services from the entertaining and educational content. And that entertaining and educational content gets a lot of engagement, but then the product and service content doesn't really get a lot of engagement. So that's why I encourage businesses to use authenticity to bridge the gap between those two kinds of content. You know, if you are being authentic and sharing about your brand in a very real and raw way, then that content is going to be entertaining, it is going to be educational, because they're going to see you at the highs and at the lows. You know, they should be seeing your brand in the process of growing and dealing with those challenges that you face as a business. But at the same time, like, they're also seeing your products and services. So you're getting a chance to showcase the things that you want your audience to purchase while still giving them that entertainment value or that educational value. So I highly encourage you to use authenticity to help bridge that gap. think about ways in which you can show the real and raw side of your business. You know, what is a challenge that you recently faced that would be interesting to bring your audience behind the scenes of? That doesn't necessarily make you look bad, because I think most people, they want to be engaging with brands who do have flaws. They want to see the human side of your brand, because that is something they can connect with. You can, when you post perfectly curated things, that's great because you're being aspirational to the customer. But when you post real, raw, authentic things, you're building a real connection with your customer. Your audience is not going to want to connect. They're going to want to follow, and they're going to want to see something that's aspirational, but they might not really feel like they can be connected to it. They don't feel like they can build that trust with your brand if you're not showing that authentic side. Because if you think about it, let's face it, as humans, you know, we are not perfect. We are not aspirational. We're not, you know, our Instagram feeds when we're walking around in our everyday life. We are real, we have flaws, we make mistakes, and being able to showcase that as business is really, really going to help build that foundation of trust between your audience and your company. So as I was saying, I encourage you to think about ways in which you can show the real, raw, and authentic side of your business. I'm trying to think here of some examples that I can tell you about. I guess, you know, in the fitness industry, this is a great example, because if you're a personal trainer, or maybe you're a gym and you highlight your personal trainers or people who are working out on your social media feeds, this is a great opportunity to get real and get raw with your audience and show them how they can feel connected to your brand. So let's say you're a personal trainer, for example, and you are working towards a certain goal. You know, maybe you're entering competition, maybe you need to cut a few pounds, maybe you need to gain a few pounds. Document that. Talk about the challenges that you're facing in achieving those goals, even if those goals aren't necessarily the same goals that your audience will have, or the same challenges that they will face. It is important to show them that yes, you are human too, and when you show them that you're human, they're going to feel as though they can relate to you and trust you to help them along on their journey. Because one thing I see a lot of personal trainers do is only show those perfectly curated pictures of themselves. You know, as they're walking out of the gym, they do a muscle shot. They take, you know, those shirtless pictures, trying to show off their physique, show off to their clients what they can achieve. And that's great. You know, there's definitely a time and a place for showing that, because you do want to show your client what their end result will be and who they could become. But at the same time, you want to show your client that you are real, you are a human being too, and that in achieving that result, you had to work together, and you had to overcome obstacles to get there. So I think, you know, if you're a personal trainer, this is a great example of how you could be authentic on your feed. Don't just show the end result. Don't just show the good days at the gym. Show the days when you show up and you don't feel like working out. Take out your phone, talk to your audience. Say, you know, I'm here at the gym right now, and it's really, really hard for me to be here, and this is what I'm going to do to overcome that. You know, that is something that your audience can 100% relate to, because everyone has days when they don't want to go to the gym. And looking at your Instagram feed, looking at it when it's perfectly curated, you know, they're not really getting the feeling like, oh wow, this trainer, you know, he goes through the same struggles that I go through, or she makes mistakes and she fails too, because it doesn't really look like that when you scroll through social media. It looks like everything is perfect. It looks like everything came easily. But if I'm a customer and I want to work with a personal trainer, I'm going to work with a personal trainer who shows me that they have faced their own challenges and that they are 100% equipped to help me face my own challenges. And that makes me feel a little bit better about working with them too. I'm like, hey, I can reach out to this person because they are a human being and they do have a real raw side and they are authentic and they're not perfect, they're not models, like I can feel comfortable if I can only lift 5 pounds in front of them because I know that even though they're lifting way more than me, they also have dealt with challenges along the way. And I've seen them document that journey, and I've seen them be vulnerable in sharing that journey with me. So I want you to use that example of a personal trainer and think about how that fits in with your business. In that example, a personal trainer was going from just showing highly curated content to raw and real content. And that raw and real content allows their audience to connect with them. Now you could take that one step further by not only showing raw, real, authentic content, but again, going back to what I was saying earlier about looking at the people who are following. What kind of content are they sharing? What kind of content are they engaging with? What kind of content do they want to see? If you have a good relationship with a lot of the people that are following you, or even with some of your own clients that are active on social media, just talk to them, have a conversation, and find out where they are on social media. What content or what platform do they spend the most amount of time on? What kind of content do they like to share on there? What kind of content do they like to see out there? Those are all great questions that you can either directly ask people if you have a great relationship with them and you think that they're representative of the kind of people that you want to be attracted to your channel. But that's also something where if you don't have that relationship, if you're not sure to ask, you can just find out for yourself. Look up someone who you think is representative of your target audience and find out what kind of content that they like. That is a great way to not only be authentic and raw and real, but to make sure that the content that you're sharing is the kind of content that your audience wants to see. So that example of a personal trainer, that is something that you can replicate as a business, whether you are in the fitness industry or any other industry. Again, it really comes down to those two key points of being raw, real, and authentic, as well as also understanding what kind of content your audience wants to see from a friendship perspective, not just a business perspective. You should not be comparing yourself to other businesses that they're following necessarily and copying content that other businesses are posting. You should be relating to them as a friend, as someone that they can trust and connect with, because that trust and that connection is the foundation of closing a sale. So if you want to use your social media platform to drive more sales to your business, to sell more products and services, then you need to think about what are the steps in the sales process and how can you be catering to your audience through your social media platform. And one of the very first parts of that is going to be trust. And you can achieve that by relating to your audience as someone that they can trust and rely on, and by presenting content that is going to grab their attention, actually keep them interested. You shouldn't have to necessarily just have contests and things like that to almost bribe them for their attention. You want to create content that is going to keep them interested in your brand both now and in a month and in 2 months and in a year from now. And one important thing to know is that this is always going to be changing. So if you go talk to someone, one of your clients, and ask them, how do you like to use social media? That today, what their answer is today is not necessarily going to be the same thing that it's going to be tomorrow, and a month from now, and a year from now. You need to keep evolving that content, and you need to keep changing, so that way you can appeal to a rapidly changing environment, which is exactly what social media is. You want to think of social media as real-world relationships. For example, your friendships with people have probably evolved over the last decade or two. You know, maybe you used to spend a lot of time talking to them over the phone, but now you text. That's just one example of how you're able to keep that connection with someone in real life, but you're changing how you're approaching the connection. That's exactly what you want to do with social media. But if you're always focusing on maintaining raw and real relationships, and if you are looking to your audience for guidance on how they want those raw and real relationships to unfold on each social media platform, then I'm confident that you're going to have no problem building those real relationships with your customers and eventually turning those relationships into sales and maintaining those relationships even after they've purchased. You know, that's something that you want to make sure that you're focusing on with your social media platforms as well. Not just building raw and real relationships with potential clients, with your prospects, with your leads, but also building those relationships with your existing customers. How can you satisfy them? How can you engage them? How can you provide content that's going to help them in the use of the product and service that you provided them? Those are all good things to do, and I'm kind of getting off topic because that could be a whole nother video in and of itself. But the basics are, if you focus on building a real relationship with your audience, if you see them as your friends, then you're going to have no problem connecting with them. Play around with that, and I encourage you to try different things out, see what works, talk to different people, check out different social media profiles of your audience, and learn from them, and try things out and test the results and go from there.